Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good morning to many of you. Good night to some of you. I'm very happy to be joining you guys. And I see that we already have some people connected. So why don't you guys tell me where you're from? Why don't you guys say hi? And we're going to begin in a few minutes. Okay. Let's give everyone the opportunity to connect to make sure that we can hear each other, that we can see each other and everything. And we'll begin in a few minutes, okay? So it's awesome to see everybody. Hello, Kalipan. It's nice to see you as well. Hello, Luan. The regulars, of course. I remember you guys, and I'm happy to see you here again. So how is everybody today? I also see some new names, some new faces. I see Mehdi from Pakistan. I see Angelo from Italy, Afiyet from Azerbaijan. Awesome. Azerbaijan. I see Maria from Brazil. Okay, so a few Brazilians. Aha. Eliko from Hungary. Awesome. Hang on, let me just put in my eye drops to make sure that I can see everything. And we'll continue. Like I said, guys, we're going to give everybody a moment to connect, and we're going to start in a few minutes. Today, we're going to study a topic that is relatively simple. It's not so difficult, but it is very frequently, there are a lot of confusions regarding this vocabulary. Okay. So, we are going to talk about vacation vocabulary, right? Anything that has to do with vacation and travel, you guys are going to help me out. This is going to be a very general review of vocabulary, and it's not going to be hard. It's more aimed for students who are beginners or who are still expanding their vocabulary. If you're an advanced student, you probably already know this vocabulary, but it would be amazing if you help us out. Okay. So I also see Rashika from Sri Lanka. Awesome. Sandesh, I'm great. Excellent. And Sumonil from Bangladesh. YW, I guess, from Japan. Awesome. So I see the classroom starting to get a little full. We're going to begin in one moment. And remember, guys, we do these live classes regularly. It's something that we have seen gives you the opportunity to study or to practice with a native speaker like myself the same way you would do on Cambly. These classes are designed to show you sort of the experience that you would get on Cambly, although, of course, on Cambly you get one-on-one classes or now group classes. I see Tegan from Canada, Baba from Ghana. Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. So, for you guys, I guess some of you it's morning. For me, it's the morning. It's kind of early in the morning. And for some of you guys, it must be in the evening. But today we're going to start off with the topic that I was mentioning, vacation vocabulary. Okay. Vacation vocabulary is something that is not too difficult, but is very frequently confused. So we're going to study this today. Vacation vocabulary. Move the microphone out of the way a little bit. And this is our topic for today. All right. In the meantime, you guys, we're just going to wait one more minute until everybody else connects. Let me make sure that you can see that. I'm going to move it a little bit more over here. And you can see this correctly, I think. It's not flipped or anything like that, right? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it, if you can see the letters, if you can read it. I think it's big enough so that it's visible there, right? I also see Warka. Awesome. Tegan says it's 10 in Canada. Okay. No, for me, it's 8 here on the East Coast. And I see Ricardo from Italy. Awesome. So a few people from Italy. Thank you, Kalipam. Thank you, Luan. Simone says it's night in Bangladesh, of course. On the other side of the planet, it must be. So awesome. And Kalipan says it's 7:34 p.m. By the way, Kalipan, when we say usually in English, people don't use the 24-hour format. And that's why we say PM or AM. If you use the 24-hour format, you don't need to say PM or AM. Okay. And I see Hidayatollah from Hidayat from Iran. Sorry, I was going to say India, from Iran. Awesome. So, guys, we are ready. Are you ready? Like I said, this is going to be a very simple, easy review of vacation vocabulary. It's not a difficult topic, and we're going to breeze right through it. It's actually going to be quite a quick class, I think, because probably you guys know most of this. Okay. So, the words that that I organized are in semi-alphabetical order, but I want to start with this very common confusion: trip and travel. So this is one of the most common issues I see when talking about vacations and going away, that people confuse this super frequently. What is the difference between trip and travel? Or is there a difference? Do they mean the same thing? Some people will argue that they are connected, so they must mean the same thing, right? What do you guys think? You tell me in the chat. Do they mean the same thing, trip and travel? And if they do, or if they don't, why? Or what's the... So I see someone from Japan. Awesome. Some Sarah from Saudi Arabia. Mehdi says it's 7 where they are. Luna. Hi, Luna. So Luna says there is no difference. Rosangela says, hello, watching from the US. Awesome. Awesome. So what do you think, guys? The difference between trip and travel. These are two words, but some people think they are the same and some people think they are different. Now, what do you guys think? Can we use them in the same situations? Can we use them in the same sentences? Or should we be careful how we use them? I'll wait a few seconds for you guys to write in the chat. And I already see some answers popping up. So I see the answer from Luan, and I see the answer from Kalipan. And okay. So and I see some other person saying, I would say trip is going with a group of people. However, travel can be alone. What do you guys think? I also see some people from Turkey. Awesome. Somebody is saying trip is by car. Hedayat says trip is for small vacation. Tony says trip is a short. For example, business trip. All right. So, guys, I'm sorry to say that some of these answers are not actually correct. This is not the same word, and it cannot be used in the same context. Okay? They are different words, and they have to be used differently. Okay? You can never mix them up. Kalipan and Luan both answered correctly. One is a noun, and one is a verb. So if you have a noun, you cannot use it as a verb typically. And when you have a verb, you can typically not use it as a noun. They are different grammatical functions, all right? Remember that. Different grammatical functions means that you cannot mix them. You cannot use them in the same way. Think of when I say car, okay? I can say I get in the car, or I buy a car, or I have a car. The car is the thing. But I cannot say I car, right? That wouldn't make any sense. I can say I drive the car, I drive the bus, I drive the van, I drive my sports car, whatever, right? So drive is a verb, car is the noun in this case. It's a very general example. But as Kalipan is saying, noun and verb are not the same thing. We have to use them differently. So which is which? Which one of these is the verb and which one of these is the noun? And of course, give me some examples. How can we use them? +0 says trip is the noun, but travel is the verb. Okay. And I also see Hedayat says saying travel is a verb. Daniela Acevedo says, I'm not sure. Tegan says, I travel to my cottage in the summer. So first off, let's agree. Travel is a verb. All right. That's one of the main conclusions that we have to remember here. Do I have a marker? I think not. But it doesn't matter. It's a very, very simple distinction, and that's what we need to remember. All right. Travel is a verb. Daniela says, I had a good trip. Good, right? So you can say, I travel to my parents' house. I travel to Egypt. I travel to Japan. I will travel tomorrow. Hedayat says trip is a noun, and Daniela already gave us a great example. I had a good trip, or a business trip. Things like that. So we can talk about a trip in general by using it in the noun form, but we cannot mix these two. Now, something very important, you guys, this has nothing to do with the distance. It can be near or it can be far. It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter if you're traveling someplace near or far. And very importantly also, it doesn't matter how long it was. It can be short and it can be long, but it doesn't make a difference between the use of trip and travel. The main difference is that it is a noun and a verb. Noun and verb, all right? That's the difference. Do not get confused by any other thing. Mehdi says the trip was outstanding. Excellent. The thing was outstanding. The car is amazing. The trip was amazing. The trip was outstanding. The trip was nice. Or you could even say the trip was terrible. Hopefully not, but that's the idea, all right? So Mina gives us another example. What's your next travel destination? Very good. Very, very good. So guys, this is the most common confusion. I see a lot of students getting this mixed up. Even if they're intermediate or upper intermediate or advanced students, they sometimes mix it up. So be very careful to repeat this. Be very careful to review this and make sure that it doesn't happen to you. All right. It's a simple distinction, and the more you practice it, the better it will be. All right. It has to be very, very, very clear. Sarah says road trip. Good. All right. A road trip is a type of trip, and it is, in this case, still a noun. All right. So let's begin with the other kind of vocabulary. Now, as I said, guys, this is sort of in alphabetical order. It's not exact alphabetical order because it wouldn't have been 100% practical. There are some words that are related to each other and some words that are not. Okay, but we're going to begin with these 6. All right, make sure it's not crooked. I don't like crooked stuff. And we're going to begin with this first word. Now, the main problem here, the main problem with this first word is that most people know the meaning. All right. Can any of you guys tell me what this word means? AISLE. What is this? Or have you ever heard of it before? When do you use it? What do you think? What is the meaning of this one? Hedayat says travel can be noun too. No, Hedayat, sorry. So Angela says corridor. Luna says I've never heard of it. Okay, interesting. Maria Fernanda says the place where we get the baggage. No, not exactly. Kalipan says pathway. Okay, what else? Okay, actually, some of you are saying that this is a new word, which is interesting. It is a word that is very commonly used in travel, especially in airplanes. No says place of street. Okay. Oh, by the way, guys, some people are asking, but sometimes travel could be a noun. For example, space travel. All right. So it's like saying swimming can be a noun. When we use it in a sentence as a function, it is a verb. When we're talking about it, it can be the object of a sentence, but it doesn't mean that its grammatical function is a noun. For example, I can say driving lessons. I could say, I like driving lessons. What is my verb in this sentence? If I say the word, I like, if I say the phrase, I like driving lessons, or I enjoy driving lessons. What is the verb there? First, we're going to answer the questions. Angela says drive. No says drive. Baba says drive. Unfortunately, all of you guys are wrong. Rashika, Luan, and Horia answered correctly. The verb here is drive. I'm sorry, like. The verb here is like, guys. In English, we have to follow the basic function SVO. All right. This is a grammatical structure that defines every sentence in the English language, basically. All right. There are a few alternatives and a few restructurings, but in English, we have that structure, SVO. First comes the subject, then comes the verb, then comes the object. So, for example, if I say, I like driving lessons, my verb is like. I am the subject, like is the verb, the object is driving lessons, okay? It doesn't mean that we're using it as a verb, okay? And it doesn't mean that it's originally a noun. If I say, I like to sleep, it's the same thing. I am the subject, like is the verb, and to sleep is the object of my sentence. And of course, in this case, the function in this sentence is being used as a noun, but it doesn't mean that the word originally is a noun or should be used as a noun, right? We can use almost anything in the subject or object, but it doesn't mean that these words are originally nouns. For example, I could say running is good. I could say hiking is nice. I could say eating is healthy. In these three sentences, what is the verb? What do you guys think? What's the verb? Running is good. Hiking is nice. Eating is healthy. Okay, I see some of you guys answering. Baba says running. What do you guys think? Baba says hiking. Unfortunately, that's incorrect. The verb is the verb to be, is. Mehdi, Mina, Daniela, all of you guys are correct. The verb is the verb to be, okay? I could say, I am nice. The verb is am, okay? When I say running is good, the verb is the verb to be, is, okay? Because of that, running is not the verb, hiking is not the verb, eating is not the verb. In this sentence, or in these sentences, they are the subject. So we can talk about an action as a subject. For example, exercise, or yoga, or driving, or travel. It doesn't mean that this word is originally a noun, okay? I want to make sure. So when you say air travel is good, for example, of course, you're talking about travel as the subject. Or you can say, I hate air travel, or I hate space travel, etc. Right? In these cases, you're using these words as either the subject or the object. But it doesn't mean that you can use them always in that way. Or rather, it doesn't mean that they are originally nouns. And if you use them as their original form, a verb, you have to put them in the right place. All right. So, guys, this was a very good question. If you have any other questions, keep them coming. But we got a little distracted and we were going with aisle. All right. That is the pronunciation of the word. I know that it looks a little weird. Many people pronounce the S. They say isol, right? Or something like that. But that's incorrect. The pronunciation of this word is aisle. And an aisle is usually a corridor between the space, okay? or an empty space between other occupied spaces. So, for example, if you're in a bus or if you're in an airplane, you have the seats on the side, and in the middle, that long space is called an aisle. Okay. So, when you're buying a ticket online or in the airport or wherever, you can buy an aisle seat. Okay. A seat that is next to the aisle, or you can buy a window seat, which is, of course, a seat that's next to the window. Mhm. That's usually the importance of this word. It will determine the quality of your seat or the position of your seat. And it's very frequent that people either don't know the meaning or that they will pronounce it incorrectly. Right? So this is aisle. Is there any question with the word aisle? Okay. What do you guys think? Any questions with the word aisle? Do you have any doubts, any issues? Can you guys help me with an example? What do you guys think? Okay. Divyesh says no. Awesome. Awesome. Any other person have a question or any other thing that's not clear? I think not, right? Sarah says clear. Awesome. So we're going to move on. Okay. So, Tiago, awesome. Mehdi says it will be the same for all vehicles. Well, not really, Mehdi, because not all vehicles have an aisle. Remember, when you're driving your car, or if your family has a normal like 4-seat car, they usually don't have an aisle. They have the front seat, the passenger seat, and the back seat. So there isn't really a space that's like that, a long empty space. It's usually just for buses or airplanes. Mhm. Because of that, not all places or not all cars have an aisle. Mhm. Sir, how do you say the pronunciation? Okay, vehicle. Okay, that's the word, vehicle. Mhm. Giselle says it's the same situation with island. Good. Yes, I wrote that word as well. We're going to review it in a moment. Now, let's get back to the other words. So we have backpack. This is a funny one. Backpack, obviously, I think you guys know, is the thing that you carry on your back. And at least in the US, we usually call it a backpack, right? We have straps here and we use it to carry our stuff, mainly when we are students in school, right? That's a backpack. However, it can also be used frequently as a verb. If I say backpack as a verb, what do you guys think that means? For example, I will backpack in 2024. Mhm. Henry Howell says when you marry, your bride comes walking down the aisle. Right. Yes, Henry. So we have seats on the side and a long empty corridor in the middle. We call that the aisle. Mhm. So what about backpack? Can you guys think of how to use that as a verb? If not, I'll tell you. All right. We usually use backpack as a verb when we're talking about the kind of trips that we take that aren't really planned so precisely, but most importantly, with a very, very, very small budget. Many people do this when they're young, many students do this. Tony explains it very well. Travel with very small amounts of money, or Angela says to travel with a backpack, something like that. And we call it a backpack because we usually don't have a lot of bags. We usually don't have a car. We just have a big backpack and we walk or we travel in buses or really cheap ways. And the objective, of course, is to spend as little as money possible and visit as many places as possible. For example, when you're backpacking through Europe, the idea is that you go, you buy your plane ticket, and you try to travel and see as many things as you can with as little money as you can. Mhm. Mina says, when it comes to traveling, backpacking is my favorite thing to do. Awesome. I Don't always enjoy backpacking. I have had a few experiences like that, but I must admit that I am not as young as I used to be. So I do enjoy a little bit more comfort when possible. Not always, of course, but when the option is available, I do prefer it. Okay. So, yeah, backpacking is great, but honestly, when it's possible, I do prefer a few creature comforts. A nice bed, at least a place of my own. That's always better for me. Mhm. All right, now let's go to the difference between baggage and luggage. What do you guys think? Why did I put these together? Like I said, they're not exactly in alphabetical order, but we have baggage and luggage. What's up with that? What is the meaning of baggage and luggage? Is there a difference? Is it the same? What do you guys think? I'm going to give you guys a second and we're going to explain the meaning of baggage and luggage or if there are any differences. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a few moments until you answer and then we'll get right into it. So, baggage and luggage, what's the difference? Is there a difference or are they the same thing? Angela says no difference. YW says I'm not sure. Sabrina says I have no idea. Okay, this one is a little tricky. Don't worry. So let me answer it this way. As a New Yorker, I would typically say baggage. All right. It's a word that feels a little bit more common and organic to me. But someone who grew up in the UK would probably say luggage, right? They are typically not used in a very different way, especially because now in our day to day life, we use them kind of as synonyms, okay? So many people would argue that they are basically the same. They usually mean the same thing. And when we talk about baggage and luggage, we're talking about all of the things that we carry with us on our trip. All right. That means our suitcases, our bags, our backpacks, our toiletry bags, all the things that we carry. All right. That's the main thing. Okay. Many people would say that they're sort of the same. And in some airports, some people would use them interchangeably. Mhm. Now, there is a subtle difference. If you go into the formal definition, luggage is used typically to refer to the things that carry your stuff. Okay. That is the suitcases and the bags. It's the name, it's the uncountable noun that refers to all of this group, all of this stuff. Okay. Now, baggage is sometimes used as a more specific term for when all of your bags and suitcases are full and they are packed. Okay. So technically, the formal definition says that baggage is when your suitcases are full and it's all of that stuff, and luggage is just your suitcases and bags, even when they're empty. Okay. So that's something that is subtly different. However, like I said, many times in a practical situation, they will they will use these words as synonyms. Okay. If you go to an airport and you ask for your luggage, they're gonna understand the same thing as if you ask for your baggage. As I said, in the US, we would commonly refer to baggage as the general thing. And I think it is more common in the US, not in the UK. All right. It has no difference if it's small, if it's big, if it's light, or if it's heavy. Guys, this is a very common mistake. People think that differences in vocabulary are because of the amount or the quantity or the duration. This is very rare. The word typically doesn't change because of how big or small it is in English. All right, that's not true. Now, um, Gisele says, "Is it about the size?" No, that's what we were explaining. Um, Henry Howell says you can have psychological. Yes, yes. Okay. So, of course, you can use this as a psychological metaphor. You can have baggage, a burden, something that's weighing you down. You can have emotional baggage. You can even have cultural baggage, which means all the collections of things that you carry with you as a person and as a culture and as an identity. But, of course, in the vacation world that we're talking about, it only means bags. All right. So, let's go and continue to cabin. What about cabin? Do you guys know what a cabin is? Or have you ever heard of it? And we will explain carry-on. Cabin and carry-on, I think, are relatively common and easy, especially when talking about planes and things like that. So we're going to speed it up a little bit. A wooden room. Okay. Yes, of course. You can have a cabin, for example, in the woods, right? But most frequently, cabin is used to refer to the inside of the plane. All right. So we have the cabin crew, the cabin equipment, cabin seats, etc. So yes, it is obviously a wooden house, like many of you guys are saying, but Gisele got it right. It is the inside of the airplane, and of course, if somebody tells you go to the cabin, they don't mean go to the cabin in the woods. They're usually talking about the inside of the airplane. All right. And what about carry on? I think this one is rather easy. It's rather simple. Can you guys help me with an example of how to use carry on in an airplane when in a simple short sentence? We have the same word in Arabic with the same meaning. Funny. Cabin. Well, it's not so funny because this happens very frequently. A lot of languages share words, share meanings. These are called either calques or loan words. In this case, it's probably a loan word if you say it the same. A calque is usually a literal translation of a word, and a loan word is a direct integration. Mhm. So, small suitcase, small bags you carry with you in your hands. Hand, suitcase. Good. Well, it's usually small, like you guys are saying. Yes, definitely, but it doesn't necessarily refer to the specific size of what you're carrying, but that you are allowed to carry it on the airplane. So it could be a small purse, it could be a carry-on, or it could be a big backpack. And as long as it's within the legal limits, you can take it on the cabin, right? So that is a carry-on. Exactly, you guys. Very good. Let's go on with layover. Speaking of airplanes, I imagine many of you have flown before and you have had a layover or two. Some people also call it a stopover. Do you guys know what this means? And by the way, even though it is the most common with airplanes, it is not exclusive necessarily. It can also be used to refer to other types of pauses in travel. Mhm. Mina says any connection between flights. What do you guys think? Is that correct? Okay. So, yes, very good, Mia. Connections between flights. It's when your flight arrives in one city, you take a pause, and then you have to connect to another one. So, yeah, obviously, you can call it a connection, you can call it a layover, you can even call it a stopover, right? All of these options are correct, and they mean basically the same thing, right? And what about coach? Coach is actually a word that originated much before airplanes, and it is used in airplanes, but not exclusively. It can also be used in buses, in bus travel, or in train travel. All right. Have you guys ever heard of the expression coach? It's actually also a word that has transformed its meaning quite a bit. It doesn't mean now what it used to mean many years ago. Baba, layover is the same as transit? No. So Bartu Demir says football coach. No. Henry says bus to the plane. I'm not sure what that means. What do you guys think? What about coach? Okay, so maybe you haven't heard of this one before, and I'll explain the rest of them as well. Coach is a category of travel, and it refers not to where you're traveling or the thing that you're using to travel. It is the quality. Okay. Coach simply refers to an enclosed space, and it was used originally with horse-drawn carriages. The coach was the box that you would sit in when you were traveling by horse and the horse was pulling you. So it just means that. However, now it is very frequently used to describe economy class, okay? The cheap tourist level of travel. That is flying coach or traveling coach. It is now used as an adjective with this new meaning. Okay, to travel coach, to fly coach is to fly economy, which means that you're basically in that place with no luxuries, with no extra comforts, and that's it. Okay, you can of course travel business class, which is one higher, and you can of course travel first class, which is the highest. Although I don't get it personally. I wouldn't recommend it or justify it. So, very good. Let's continue. Now, domestic. This is also something that you might have heard of before, but maybe you're not sure what it means. Domestic. Have you ever heard of domestic travel, you guys? And in the meantime, we'll review these. This is a tricky one, and these are simple ones. Someone help me with domestic. What is the meaning and what is the use of domestic? But these other ones are simple. I included fee here because, guys, fee is not the same as cost. Okay, a fee is an added charge to something because you are either not allowed or that you have to ask permission for something. For example, a travel fee is not a travel cost. Okay, it's something that usually a government or an authority will charge you. Now, holiday I wrote down because it's very frequent that we have this confusion of vocabulary. The difference between vacation and holiday, well, it depends who you ask. Me, as I said, as a New Yorker, I would never use holiday to refer to my vacation. To me, to North Americans, a holiday is a special day that is celebrated publicly. For example, Christmas, New Year's, Independence Day. For me and for North Americans. But for British English, holiday is vacation. A holiday is a trip you take to celebrate something or to enjoy yourself. Okay? And as we were saying before when we reviewed Isle, I wanted to make sure that we practice the pronunciation of island. Okay? It's not Island or Iceland or any other of those crazy things. It is island. Okay. So now I see you guys have answered. Sarah says not international. Tony says national, which is the same thing. Mehdi says within the country. Joy says local. Angela says related to our country. Good. Horia says it means traveling in the same country. Very, 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 very good. So that's awesome. That's correct. Yes, domestic is something that is not foreign, something that is not international. It means doing or whatever within the boundaries of the nation or a territory. Okay, so it can be a domestic flight, it can be a domestic trip, it can be domestic production, it could be gross domestic product, for example. It is very, 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 very general, right? Divyesh says India used British accent. No, Divyesh, that's not correct. Of course, because of the brutal and violent British invasion of India, there is a very, 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 very big British influence, but it is because it was a colony, not because it is the same accent. Okay. India has, of course, its own styles of speaking and adapting to the colonizer's culture, but it doesn't mean that you have to use it, and it doesn't mean that it's the one that is correct. Okay. It is more common, but it is not a standard. And of course, you can use whichever one you want. Okay. Juanita, okay. Island. The pronunciation is island. Okay. Rashika says, my country is a beautiful island. You need to add the My country is a beautiful island, Rashika. Very, very good. Okay. So let's continue with the next one. I think I have the tape here. We are going to talk about, okay, let me put it here. No, here. So we're going to start with these, and I'm going to move here just so that you guys can hear me better. All right. So why did I write currency? Well, the answer is quite simple. Very many students say coin. Okay. Do not say coin. A coin is that round piece of metal that you use when you don't have a bill, which is the paper one, right? Do not say coin when you're talking about dollars or riads or reais or pesos or anything like that. It is not a coin. It is a currency. Okay? So when you want to talk about the type of money you have or where it is from, it is currency. Okay? Oh, yes, there is a typo. So it is EN, not NE. Don't worry, guys. Very good. So currency, okay? Not coin. This is very, 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 very important. Do not say coin. You would say currency. For example, currency exchange. Okay. That is something really, really, really important. Okay. Now, I think that one is pretty easy. Tell me, you guys, do you frequently have any currency exchanges? Do you use different types of currency? What do you guys think? Most of you know that it's money. Okay. Very good. For example, Jorge says the dollar is the official currency for the US. Yes, but Jorge, remember your articles. The US dollar is the official currency for the US. Okay. In airports, not always, says Sarah. Okay. Good, good. Very, 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 very good. Excellent. So let's continue. We are speaking of airports, let's go to customs. When you travel, depending on where you travel to, you might go through customs, which is always a pain in the neck. It's always quite stressful, and many people have to deal with it. Do you guys know what customs are or what that process is? Customs. Mm-hmm. Customs. What do you think, guys? I'm going to give you a second. And some of you say, no, I'm not sure. Mehdi says a security check. So the customs are the group of people or the institutions. It's not customers, Angela. Be careful. That is customers. But I'm not talking about customers. I'm talking about customs. All right. It's the group of people or the institution that makes sure that the borders of a country are respected, supposedly, and they don't allow certain things or people in, right? So they have criterias, they have guidelines, they have laws, and their objective is to try to keep things out of the country. For example, in some places you can't bring plants because they would affect the local ecosystem. So, for example, if you're traveling and you go through these checks or these patrols, you would not be allowed in, or your plant would not be allowed in because of a certain regulation. It is not the same as immigration, Pamela, although within customs, there is an immigration division. Okay. So it is not the same. And like I said, you guys, it is not customers, it's customs. Okay, customs. Right? Kalipan gave us the official definition from a dictionary: the official department that administers and collects the duties levied by a government on imported goods. That means that you have to pay if something is restricted, you have to keep it out if it's not allowed, etc. Okay? So very good. Now, I wrote a few other ones which are not necessarily confusing, but I wanted to help you guys spice up your vocabulary. For example, embark, itinerary, and leisure. All right. Some people say leisure, I say leisure. It will highly depend where you're from, what accent you have, meaning what dialect you speak, whether it's British English, North American English, South African, etc. Right? These are words that you can use to express in a slightly more eloquent way what you're doing or what your intentions are. For example, to embark is a word that we use to refer to the start of a trip. Okay, I will embark on a voyage, for example. I will begin this long trip or this travel and I will dive into the adventure. That is what embark means. And we can, of course, use it metaphorically in other situations. Now, what about itinerary? Do you guys know what an itinerary is? And something that you might not know is keepsake. Okay. Keepsake is basically a souvenir. Okay. Something that you guys might have heard of, something that you keep from your travels to remind you of them. Okay. That's a keepsake. Very good. And we're starting to see some answers for itinerary. Very good. And what about leisure? Well, leisure is basically your time to rest and everything you do to enjoy yourself. It is a very common word nowadays. And some people even say that we have a right to leisure, which I agree with. So the idea is that all of the things that you do to enjoy yourself, to spend time with your family, with your hobbies, all of that is leisure. Okay. And leisure is the time you spend doing it. Okay. Now, Tony says the itinerary is a plan or schedule. Very good. The itinerary is your plan divided into usually hours and specific times to help you stay organized. All right. Now, the last one. These are kind of important, and some of them might be new. All right. So let's start with lodge. Have you guys ever used lodge before? What do you guys think? Lodge. What is lodge? And we already said voyage. We will embark on a voyage, so we'll avoid that. We'll skip it. Horia says no. What about the rest of you guys? Have you ever heard of lodge? Have you ever used it in a sentence? Have you ever wondered what it means? Angela says accommodation. Warka says no. Anybody else? So I can see that Riju says used for lodging. Well, yes. Lon says, I've heard about it, but I don't remember the meaning. So it's actually relatively simple. We say lodge to refer to the place where we're staying, okay, or where we rest, where we spend our nights typically. So where we stay. That's basically it. Sometimes travel guides or travel packages will say food and lodge included, meaning that they will include the price, rather, the cost of your food and your hotel or wherever you're staying is included, or it's already given to you in a way, right? So you can say, hey, I am planning a trip and the most expensive thing that I will buy will be lodge, right? That just means that you will spend the most money on your hotel or on your hostel, wherever you're staying, right? Now, as we said, we're going to skip voyage and let's get reservation out of the way. I think most of you already know what a reservation is. Can you guys help me with some examples of reservation? YW says embark is a verb. Yes, it is a verb. For example, I will embark on a voyage. And voyage is a noun. So it's almost like the difference between trip and travel, right? The voyage is the trip and embark is travel. All right. So good. But Mehdi says, I reserved a seat. Bermili says, I have a reservation under the name of Mr. Johnny. Sarah says it's booking. Reservation is when you book something. Kalipan says, I reserved a seat in the airplane. I reserved a seat prior to the arrival. I reserved a ticket for the US. Pamela says, I made a hotel reservation yesterday. Exactly. Usually it's when you either call or do it online by yourself to make sure that you have a place for something. A reservation can be at a restaurant, at a hotel, for a spot, or for a service. Sometimes it's prepaid. Sometimes you don't have to pay and you just have to arrive and then pay when you get there. But the idea is that you make this to make sure that you will have they will have availability and you will have the first option, right? Reservation is a noun, and of course reserve is a verb. Now let's go with red eye. Some of you were already asking me, what is red eye? I can give you the example. I took the red eye to New York last night. Have you guys ever heard of this expression or what it means? I'm going to help you. Don't worry. Pamela and Sarah says last flight for the day or too late flight. Sarah says midnight. Okay, so there are a few confusions here. It doesn't have to be the last flight of the day because, as we know, the day ends at midnight, and midnight is sometimes not so late for some people. A red eye is a type of flight that's usually very late or that conflicts with your sleeping schedule, and it's very tiring. So much so that when you go, your eyes get red and you're tired, and when you arrive, you feel horrible. That's a red eye flight. Okay. So it can be at 2 a.m. or it could be at 11 p.m. or 4 a.m. It depends on what you consider tiring or late. Okay. Yet most of them do, of course, depart at night and arrive in the morning. Not all of them do because they, of course, will vary according to the duration of the flight, the destination, etc. But the idea is that it's a very tiring trip. It's usually by plane, although it could be by bus or by train. And the idea is that we use this expression to explain that it's not something nice, it's something tiring, and it's usually our last resort. Okay, so guys, I think that was it, except for tourist trap. And that's an interesting one. Now, I have traveled a little bit. I have never fallen into a tourist trap, fortunately. I consider myself kind of street smart, and I think most people have the idea of how to avoid a tourist trap. But what is a tourist trap? Divyesh says, I took a red eye from India to the USA. Right. But remember, Divyesh, you need to use your articles, the USA. Okay, very good. So what is a tourist trap, you guys? We'll finish with that one. And I'm going to remind you guys that we, as always, care about you guys joining the platform. We want to see you on Cambly. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to speak to other native tutors like myself. You can take a class with me even if you click the link below and you're a member of Cambly. If you're not a member of Cambly, you should do so right now. Join. We have a special promo code today that is Go Live, and it is, I think, for almost 30% off your plan. So go check that out. If you have any questions, you can email the Cambly Help Desk or any of our agents to help you, set up a plan, choose what plan is right for you. But go ahead and do that now. And guys, I do hope to see you in my class. Like I said, you can just search for the name below, or you can just Google me. By the way, I think I usually introduce myself, but sometimes I forget. That's my name. Search for it, and my Cambly profile will appear right there. Right now, tourist trap. A tourist trap is the attractive place that many people go to. Yes, but usually a tourist trap is a place that has a lot of superficial charm. Okay. Some place that is nice or something that seems interesting to someone that has never been there before. So especially tourists. Locals already know that it's actually kind of boring, or it's just a fraud, or it's cheap, or it's not interesting. So tourists go there, but locals mostly avoid tourist traps. Okay. They can be interesting places, they can be historical places, but very frequently they can be full of activities that are just designed to get the money out of you. Okay. Expensive products, expensive food, expensive drink, all that kind of thing. Okay. Mehdi says, could you pronounce your name? Yes, my name is Kwao. I have been your tutor for today, and it seems that we are running out of time. So, guys, we're going to stop it here. There were a lot of words that we covered. There were a lot of good questions. There was a lot of good interaction. I really love doing these lives for you guys. So remember, if you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below. Say that you liked it. Say that you like me, maybe. I don't know. Whatever you want. Share it with your friends. Share it with anybody that you think needs a little bit of help with their travel or vacation vocabulary. And I hope to see you on Cambly. Like I said, you can go and look for my profile. That's my name, Kwao Guerra. It's in the title. It's in the link down below. Search for me. I will be very happy to teach you English if you're an intermediate or advanced student. I specialize in advanced students. So if you're looking for someone to help you develop your level a little bit more, we'll see each other there. But in the meantime, you guys, bye everyone. Thank you for everything. Take care. Have a great weekend. Okay. So bye, Pamela. Thank you very much. Bye, Warka, Sarah. Bye, Horia. Bye, Rashika. Bye, Luan. Thank you so much. Bye, Mehdi. Bye, everybody. All right. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great day. Hopefully, you guys can travel very soon and apply all of this vocabulary. Bye, Kalipan. Bye, Divyesh. Bye, Mehdi. Thank you so much. Okay. Take care of yourself, Tiago, Pamela. Bye-bye. See you. Bye, Daniela. Bye-bye.